All
All
right.
right, everybody. I'm used to having the countdown too, which is always fun. Not having the countdown kind of messes with things. Everybody, welcome to the No Fucks Give It podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perry, with Will Cordingly. Good morning. It's only 10:30. We're only 15 minutes after the technical time of the show because of some technology issues that we're having, but we will go through and manage and persevere.
We have a
We will
production team of
conquer and
30 people on this, and
overcome.
we can't get it right, man.
There are
Army
those
of
days where the
professionals
where
doing
the
this.
where the technology just is working against you sometimes. But we're going to talk about your favorite subject, the platinum rule, which apparently this is new to you.
This is new to me. I actually had heard of it, but I couldn't define it for you if,
Yeah,
someone was making me do that for high stakes, gun to my head, and
right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
probably going to have to take me out.
Right. Yeah, and the goal and I think everybody knows the golden rule, essentially do unto others as you would like done to you. There's different variations of that. They also have it in the negative context. Don't do the others as you don't want done to you type of a thing. So I think there's a couple of different variations. I learned about the platinum rule in BNI, which is Business Networking International, and BNI's motto is givers gain. So that's kind of their belief as far as that if you are willing to help other people, they will want to reciprocate that help and naturally help you. And that's where the platinum rule comes in. And the platinum rule is do unto others as they would like done to them. So, because we're kind of presupposing with the golden rule, if the golden rule is do unto others as you would like done to you, we're kind of
Mhm.
presupposing that other people want things done the same way that you do.
So it's kind of taking it to the next level, as in, we can be pretty sure I don't want anyone to kill me, so I shouldn't be out there doing that to other people. But the
Right.
platinum rule is getting more specific. Actually, be
Right.
like, so how would you
Yeah, and
like to be
I,
treated?
and I think the golden rule kind of came from biblical terms. So if
Yeah, I
you think
believe it
about the
did.
10 commandments, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, well, thou shalt not steal as an example. Therefore, I don't want you to steal from me. Therefore, I will not steal from you. Golden rule. Sounds good. Um,
Fair enough.
yeah. But if we go a little bit deeper in the golden rule, well, actually, I was talking to my friend this morning about it, is that like the five love languages. If you're familiar with that book, The
Yeah.
Five Love Languages, and see if I can remember what they are. There is acts of kindness, there is physical touch, there is time, there is gifts, and then I forget what the fifth one is.
What is that? Yeah, I'm
I
not
haven't,
familiar. I
I
know, I know what the system is. I just don't know it at a
yeah,
deep
I
level.
haven't, I haven't written or read the book. If somebody knows what that fifth rule
Mhm.
is, it would be great because I know one of the things that they talk about in the book with the five love languages is to identify, may it be a partner. I think it was written specifically for partners, but it could be anybody that you care for. Is identify how what their perception of love is, right? If your perception of love is gifts, I want to receive gifts, even if it's just like here's a stick of gum, and it's like oh, just that giving is an act of love, but for somebody else, that may not be an act of love if they just want to spend time with you. It's like,
Yeah, it's a. My understanding is it's a way of cleaning up communication. Is one way to describe it, right? So like,
right,
what do you mean? I give you all these gifts, or I spend all this time with you. This is me showing you that I love you and I care about you.
right,
Whereas it would just communicate more for the other person to give them gifts in one way or another.
right,
So you're getting the criteria of the other person.
all right. And I think the idea behind the five love languages is then we're going to use the platinum rule instead of the golden rule because it's not about how you perceive love, it's about how the other person perceives love. So what can I do for that other individual to make them feel wanted, special, loved, whatever it might be.
Now, for us who are uninitiated, myself being the prime example of this platinum rule,
Mhm.
are there rules of engagement with this? Do you just how would I go about implementing this in my life? Would I just go up to someone and say, "Hey, how should I treat you, or what would you like done for you?"
"Hey, how can I treat you?
Hey,
What would you like?" Yeah, that's one
hey,
way of doing it, Will.
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's for me, a lot of it is, I think, just awareness. And so
mhm,
if they're, these are things that you can use in relationships, you can use them with friends, you can use them with coworkers, so all types of relationships, and just trying to understand that people see the world differently when they see the world through their eyes. I think we've talked a lot about perspective and how important perspective is. And so if, I like listening to rock music as an example. So if it's got a good guitar and drum beat, I typically like that. Not all of my friends are that way. I have some friends that they just get overwhelmed. It just overwhelms their system with the type of music. So if I'm aware of that, I'm not going to go, hey, do unto others as you do to yourself and turn the music up louder. I'm going to say, no, I'm going to understand what it is that they want and then show that I care and respect them by doing as they would like. And then, of course, you got to find a balance because nobody wants to be walked over either.
yeah,
But I think those are just there's always little opportunities to find it. These are things that people use in business all the time, right? It's a great salesperson doesn't necessarily have to know the product as well as
mhm,
understanding relationships and that, oh, so and so likes cream in their coffee. And so, when you go meet the prospect, you make sure you get coffee and you bring cream or whatever the little special. They're always looking for special little things
yeah,
to show that they care in a way that's going to make the other person feel important. And I think that's really the goal as I see it is kind of the role of the platinum rule is that when you pay attention to others and you start doing, acting, behaving, helping, talking in ways that make them feel comfortable, make them feel secure, make them feel like you're actually paying attention to them, they're going to want to reciprocate and they're just going to be so much happier. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. It's so nice.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot to be said for being thoughtful in your relationships and conscientious. I'm actually it's kind of timely, oddly enough, even though I didn't know it before. I'm right in the middle of a book called Super Connectors about another way of kind of reimagining networking, where networking
Mm,
is just kind of an extraction model of connecting to people and what can you get from them and what can they get from you. Um, this kind of book puts forth the idea that super connectors are like super givers. Essentially,
right.
they're really generous with um, their attention and their thoughtfulness, and if it's relevant, gift giving or thanking or something like that. And at the heart of it's the root, this kind of root thing in most people that we have an innate response to want to be reciprocal if people are
Hmm.
generous and thoughtful with us. And the famous psychologist Bert Hellinger, he has a model for great relationships, mainly for romantic, but it works in any relationship where someone does something thoughtful or gives to their person, and it creates just this tiny amount of guilt inside of the other person. Not in a bad way, but in kind of a useful way, if that
Right.
makes sense. And that tiny bit of guilt causes the other person to do something thoughtful and nice for the other
Right.
person. And then that
And
causes a tiny bit of guilt in the other person. And it
right.
causes this virtuous up spiraling, of positivity.
Right. And it's interesting because it's not ideally it's done in a way where they don't feel so guilty, right? That it's like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Cause sometimes people are like, if you somebody drove up and, an old friend said, "Hey, I won the lottery. I'm going to give you a Lamborghini." Okay, really cool. Would love that. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I'm like, I don't know. That's such a disproportionate amount of gift giving for what I could reciprocate that I would feel really guilty. And then the response would be like, well, can I just test drive it for a while and maybe borrow it? But I don't know if I could
Absolutely.
accept it as a gift, even though it would maybe make the other person feel really good, as an
Mhm.
example. So it's interesting you talk about, the whole guilt and innocence, but I like the idea of that,
Mhm.
the up leveling, right? If you can just do a
Yeah. Well,
little bit, just make them feel a little guilty in a good way, because it's going to be a positive feeling, ideally.
yeah. Well, I'll clarify. The point is not to make someone feel guilty. That's kind of
Right.
the emotional structure of how it's like when we do something nice for someone, right? In your example of if I gifted or someone gifted you a Lamborghini, that creates a feeling of guilt in you, whether it's little or big.
Right.
And that's kind of the structure of reciprocity. We have this innately in us. I think, but how to win friends and influence people has been
Mhm.
talking about this. Like, people have been talking about this since they've been talking about relationships. Like,
Right.
when you do something good for someone, they want to do it back for you, typically, not
Right.
always. And then you bring up a really interesting point, which kind of would be fun to explore. Choosing guilt becomes a really, really important life skill, actually, because if your friend wanted to give you a Lamborghini free and clear, no, with no obligation, no weirdness, no like
Right.
Godfather, like you can have this Lamborghini, but one day I
One
will
day.
call upon you kind of thing going on. Yeah. If there's no funny
How
business, like
but how
you
will I
should take that
know?
Lamborghini and you have
Right.
to actually consciously choose that guilty feeling that comes with it. And then it becomes
Right.
well formed and positive within yourself. And then you can
Right.
enjoy the gift and
Yeah.
and then the relationship goes back to a healthy balance.
Yeah.
So people,
Um, and this is something that was interesting. I don't have it up, but I was like, "Oh, well, I'll jump on Wikipedia. I'm just kinda curious to see what they say." Wikipedia has nothing for the platinum rule. They have a reference to, How I Met Your Mother, the TV show, and they have some references for the golden
okay.
or the platinum rule, excuse me, but they don't actually have anything. But I did find this Inc. magazine article, how the platinum rule trumps the golden rule every time. And it's really about important as to how the other person wants to be treated. And
Mm,
so, if you want to, check out the article, what I thought was interesting though, down here, March 17th is when the article came out, back in 2016. So it's been
okay.
around and it's from a gentleman. Apparently, it came from this gentleman, Dave Kirpin. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's the author of The
Uh,
Art of People.
I am
And
not familiar.
he says that following the golden rule is all wrong. Instead, we should be following the platinum rule. Says we all grew up learning the simplicity and power of the golden rule: do unto others as you would want done to you. Splendid concept, except for one thing: everyone is different. And the truth is that in many cases, what you'd want done to you is different from what your partner, employee, customer, investor, wife, child would want done to him or her.
That's
So,
very true.
yeah,
Time to
and
upgrade, man.
time to upgrade. And it's also it's I think part of that is just recognizing the fact that all people are different. And we talk about kind of the map that we all live in. We all have our own map that we live in. And when somebody is
Mm,
so far off that, it just doesn't seem right, or it doesn't seem real, or it's just really perplexing how somebody
mhm.
would, to them, they would want to do that. It's like when some people I tell, let's just go to Taco Bell for food. They're like, what are you talking about? Why would you even consider that? And it's like, well, it's quick, it's simple, it's easy. And for me, it just kind of it's oh, what's the word I want? It's comforting. It's my comfort food. It's one of my comfort food. Mexican food in general is my comfort food. For other people, Taco
Okay.
Bell is like the farthest thing in the world that they would ever want to eat, right?
Not
So
organic,
it's
non-GMO.
no, all that good stuff, all that good
Yeah.
stuff, they're only paying the employees minimum wage, it's a big evil corporation. It's too
Mm.
much sodium in it, all those types of things. However, for me, it's kind of a comfort food, so I enjoy it, and not that I need to eat it all the time, but so there's that finding that balance because while that may be exciting for me, my daughter, as an example, she has no desires to go to Taco Bell. She likes to pre-prep all of her food. She eats mainly vegetables. She's very much into the organic side of things. And so for her, I have to recognize that her and I have different values, if it will, when it comes to food. And
Yep.
I'm great that she has what she wants. So I want to find a ways to support her, make her feel good about her decisions. So we will go find food that's relevant for her and find a balance. And then hey, if it's Father's Day and I want to go to Taco Bell, guess what? It's my day. I'm going to go to Taco Bell.
Go. And for everyone out there, for God's sakes, can we just take Ryan out for Taco Bell?
My
And
goodness, thank you very much.
get this
I need
platinum rule moving.
I need a refill, Will. My cup is empty.
I hope, I really hope that they start sending those checks in for all this free PR that they're getting right here, right now, all this exposure. I haven't been there in forever. I'll go with you, man. We'll do the platinum rule with that. I'll have
I
to say,
appreciate
when I
that.
think
You
about
don't have to
Taco
eat
Bell,
anything.
just hang out. There you
Yeah, I'll
go.
take you to McDonald's. Don't worry.
Oh, I don't know what rule that is, but it's not gold or
It's not
platinum.
the golden rule. That's
Mm.
I didn't even think about that until you said it. That's awesome. Golden
That's
arches.
another rule
This is
for another day.
this is
We'll have to coin that one. Yeah.
yeah. It's like, nope, this is not the golden rule. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
So
At the heart of our training, kind of the basis of NLP and our training at NLP Marin, you almost start out in the very beginning learning about the concepts, right? As earbuds are moving around, that in order to be a useful and effective practitioner with a client, you have to get on their map. You have
right.
to kind of get off of yours and get onto their map. And well, what does that mean? It means we have to understand the meanings they make about life and the filters they perceive situations through and the beliefs that are running that color their world in, so that we
Hmm.
can effectively help revise the ones that are outdated and limiting, so that they become better and better for them.
Right.
And this is kind of just sounds like, net of this is saying, understand what other people want, understand their realities, and work within that if you care about them, as opposed
Right.
to your own. Because you might give someone a bottle of wine because that's kind of a classic gift in business and friendship and whatever, but maybe
Right.
they don't drink. I guess that's the idea, understanding these things.
Right. Give me a Mountain Dew instead. I'll take it. I'll be happy.
Yeah.
It is, and I think, it's not even about being a practitioner, um, or I mean, within BNI, that's kind of the platform is to help practitioners who want to help people have a better, healthier, live the life that you want to live. But it plays out in so many different ways as far as friendships, as far as relationships. And I think for a lot of it, for me, I think boils down to perception. And that if you have never walked, a mile in somebody's shoes, you really don't have a perception of understanding what they're going through. And I always find it interesting now, after going through all the years of training with NLP Marin, is when people be like, why would she do that? Or why would he do that? And, that's just stupid. I mean, people are just stupid. And it's kind of like, wow, okay. Obviously, you're on a different map or something's been triggered in that individual. That's why they're getting so frustrated. but not allowing or taking the time to actually understand, well, why is that person acting in the way that they are? May it be egregious, by all social standards, it could be totally egregious, but if we kind of work on the presupposition that everybody makes the best decisions possible in that moment, what is
available
it
to them. Yeah.
yeah, that's available to them. Thank you. What is it about the situation that's going on? So, without perspective into what's going on with other people's lives, it's like how it's so easy as humans, though, to pass judgment on other people, and yet we don't have that perspective into their lives as far as, that moment in time. There's been a few times I've seen some kind of like, "Whoa, wow, that parent with their child." "Ooh, but, you could like, really? You're gonna do that in a store?" And then I have to pause and go, "I have no idea what that parent's been through." I don't know what type of stress they're under. I have no idea what they're dealing with. And I've had my moments that as a parent, I'm just pulling examples, random examples that you could be a friend, it could be a coworker, it could be somebody that you're in a relationship with, where you're like, oh yeah, that was not my finest example.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
it's
I am not a parent, so I can try and understand that reality, but I don't think I truly could, because maybe you
yeah,
see the kids acting out for the 500th time, that morning, and then you
right.
just see the net result of that, even though it's really unpleasant to see. And
Right.
sometimes it's illegal, just depends on what we're talking about. But
Sometimes
hey,
it's illegal
that's a
too, so you
that's a
gotta be careful about that.
sometimes it's illegal, and that's not good.
Yeah,
But that's an interesting dynamic. I mean, applying this kind of platinum rule in like a parent child dynamic, because kids, their brains aren't, they're not fully formed, they're not online, they don't necessarily understand that they're doing anything wrong a lot of the
right.
time. And this is different, but it's related. One day out of nowhere, after just going through life, talking to cats I grew up with and seeing people, talk to their dogs and stuff, one day it just hit me out of nowhere. I think I saw someone like yelling at their dog in English on the street. It just hit me how ridiculous that is. Like
Yeah,
how utterly hilarious the idea that we
alright.
like correct animals in like human language and
Mhm.
expect that to be effective or make sense in
Right,
any way.
right,
It's like really funny,
right.
and
That's
is the
kind of the that's
opposite of
kind
the
of the
platinum rule for that.
yeah, that's kind of the golden rule in process, right? I
Mhm.
don't bark, so why are you barking? You should not be barking right now. I would like you to not bark because I do not bark. But
Yeah.
then, yes, the communication, right? I even I talk with people about even just working with others is that, and I actually use dog training as an example, and simply because when you're working with other people, and you mentioned this earlier, if you don't know what's going on with them, what's going on in their map, if you don't know what's going on with their mind, it's really hard to communicate with them in a way that they can comprehend and understand that's valuable to them as an individual. It's the same thing with an animal. You got to speak dog language, which means understanding what the how the dog is representing your actions. How is the dog, what are their behavioral styles? What are they going to respond to? Food as an example. You can use that as a motivational tool. There's different things that you can do with a dog in order to get that compliance that you want, just like you can do different things with people to get the compliance that you want without being forceful, without being angry, without intimidation, without all of those other things. It's about getting on their map, understanding them, using the platinum rule so that they willingly want to go. That sounds like a great idea. I would love to go do that. Going back to kids, I learned at a very early age with my daughter that what did not work was just giving her one option. if I said, "This is what we're going to do," or "This is what you're going to do," I got a lot of resistance from her. And so what I
Mhm.
had to learn how to do is I would have to give her a couple of options. And because she was young, I could make the options very clear what I wanted. I could make option A really bad. You're going to have to eat Taco Bell. Or option B is you can have broccoli and snow peas as an example. And because she had the option and that's the way her mind works, she wanted to have choice in the decision. And that just the simple fact that I gave her choice made a world of difference in having a positive, loving relationship with her. Because there are times that people want to kill their children. I haven't come that close, but they test you. They test you, folks. So finding ways to be
So
able
I've
to
heard.
communicate, yeah, being able to communicate in a way that works for them while working for you as a parent is just huge. It's huge.
Yeah. And what we're talking about here, it seems like, is just, I mean, if we really live this way with anyone you relate with, it's essentially a gift. Like
Yeah.
relating with someone who's oriented in this way
Mhm.
is like, very profound and pretty rare, I would say.
And
So,
it's a nice way to show that you really love somebody. I mean, love is making compromises, I think, on your end. And again, it's not about becoming a doormat. That's not when I say compromises. It's not about becoming a doormat or just doing what somebody wants in order to receive love. It's a mutual give and take that you go back and forth on. But when you're able to allow somebody to be their authentic self and express themselves in the ways that they need to, that's still safe and compatible with you in all those ways. I think that's really part of showing somebody that you love them and care for them because you're allowing them to express themselves how they want to,
sounds
which
like it. And you care enough to be around them as they're being authentic and expressing what they
right.
care about. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have a strong desire to eat at Taco Bell, but I like you. I'll do that with you. That, that kind of idea.
Yeah.
And if everyone in this world was oriented in this way and had the time and the resources and the mental and emotional faculties to kind of be trained in this way, it'd be interesting. I can't even imagine what that would be like, essentially.
In this way being
Considering other people to at such a depth
hmm,
so consistently, that the ones that are important in their life, and then the reciprocity that comes from that, these kind of
right.
virtuous like up cycles, it'd be a different kind of place.
Would totally be a different kind of place.
Well, it's interesting to think about. I don't even know if it'd be right. So maybe we're not built to handle a utopia. Maybe all these kind of crazy things that we rail against and say we wish we were different and all that are here to teach us something and
Right.
evolve us and move us forward in some ways. But it's an interesting thought experiment to say, well, what if everyone kind of operated in this way truly most of the time,
Mhm.
and then received back the the natural progression of this,
Right.
and then it would just cycle in and on itself.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we
It's
have,
it's
if
an
we got things that are out of our worldviews and out of our maps, you got to build them inside first until they
right.
can come outside.
Right. Yeah. And I imagine what I think just so many more people would be happier because it's I was talking to somebody last night and it was like I just couldn't imagine growing up as a Southern Belle. Oh, I was talking to a friend who was never allowed to be wrong growing up as a child. They were it was
Mm.
you always it was not prim and proper per se, but you had to do things right. You were not allowed to not do things right in her family growing up. And so I just kind of think of the Southern Belle, where it's just everything you got to say the right thing. Oh, there's a Miranda Lambert song, um, where the lyrics basically it's the mom talking to the daughter, going, stop your crying, fix yourself. It was just a breakup. Go put on some makeup and, just go out. And it's just kind of like ignore everything you're feeling and just go out because you need to represent correctly. And if you don't represent, then all kinds of bad things are going to happen. People are going to talk about you. And I'm like, oh my, can you imagine the pressure of always having to be correct all the time and not being able to express yourself in the ways that you want to? I mean, I just think it would be just very, talk about that. Um, Prison doesn't have to be a cell. You don't have to be incarcerated to be in prison. There's the mental prisons that people put themselves in where they're not allowed to be themselves. And it's like, well, what if we could just let people be themselves in the first place? How much happier would we all be?
Yeah, and or they're being put in that cell by, other people in the world, probably their primary caregivers, parents or grandparents or
Right.
something like that. That's how the family has to operate. You can never make a mistake. You can never be human truly. You can never be yourself fully and authentically, because we're
Right.
meant to misstep and course correct. It just seems to be part of the software. So yeah, I can't imagine the amount of anxiety or disassociation or like removal from self that it would create to not be able to ever make a mistake. And
Right.
you probably see that a lot. I mean, at least in celebrities, I can't think of one pinpoint right now, but I know I've seen a bunch growing up. They're like the perfect celebrity persona, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden they go off the rails and they're
Yeah.
doing drugs and getting in trouble with the law and sabotaging their career. That's
Hmm.
probably the polarization from some sort of rules of life where you
Right.
can't do anything wrong and you have to be perfect. If that's not who you are,
Right.
eventually things start to crumble.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting how it shows up so many times, right? It's not just a one-off case. I mean, you could go back through history, Justin Bieber, trying to think of who was the gal in Poltergeist. She was a really young star
Oh, the
actress.
child in Poltergeist?
Yeah, the little girl. She was in
Was it Drew Barrymore?
Drew Barrymore. Yes. She's
Okay,
got
yeah.
stories she could tell you, and just all kinds of people that, had that early claim to fame. Um,
Mhm.
and it is kind of, and that I would imagine they also get a lot of the golden rule. It's like, oh, whatever you want, we will bow to you. You are the golden child who's making all the money. So whatever you want, we will give to you. And
Mhm.
if you're exposed in that type of environment where you're just given, 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 and you're not taught or asked to think about other people, I would imagine you started, people just wouldn't want to be around you as often anymore because of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to live a lonely life. Just because you're famous or rich doesn't preclude you or
Right.
exclude you from that at all, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. Definitely.
And if you're
Um,
not held to certain standards or taught, if you're not taught certain life skills, I would say like the golden rule. Um, and now that we're coming in the platinum rule, yeah, you're saying maybe people don't want to stick around past the ones who see just, opportunity in relating with you as
right.
opposed to caring about who you are truly and as a human being.
Hmm.
So this stuff's tough. It has big consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. But I like what
So
you were saying earlier is how different might the world be. So, for those watching, if you could kind of think if we spent more time thinking about what the other person would want, what would make them happy. And again, it could be little things. It doesn't have to be these grand gestures of anything. It could just be these little things, just noticing people, saying hello on the street. Could be a little thing that it's like, oh, that really made my day. Or I love the fact that, we pay things forward. You hear the stories where
Mhm.
people go to the Starbucks as an example, and I'm going to buy the order person behind me, and then that person buys the next one and the next one. And so we're not just thinking about ourselves at this point. We're really thinking about other people. And when you think about other people, it allows you to understand how different and unique each one of us are. And a lot of times that could be how different and unique that you are as an individual also, right? Because you might see things very differently from the rest of the world or some of your friends that you hang out with, and maybe weren't always aware of that because you were
Yeah,
always looking
and
inwards, right? You recognized what all was good here, but you didn't necessarily look outwards to find out that, oh, you know what? Some of my friends don't like when I do whatever. Hadn't
mm,
thought about how that affects them and how they feel about that.
yeah, totally. Just as long as you don't become phobic of how you are in the world all the time, just
Sure.
take the important feedback and
Right.
make course corrections.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
seems like the dirty secret of the golden rule and the platinum rule is that while you're out oriented to benefiting and helping other people, you probably are benefiting and helping yourself the most.
Mm.
You
Mhm.
know, we get a lot of internal rewards from being altruistic and being kind and being oriented towards helping people. Like the emotional secondary payoffs of that are huge, not even the ones where you're talking about BNI, where it's like if you give enough, people are going to give back to you, and that's cool,
Right.
and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also just the act of it
Right.
probably is really good for your psychology, and
Right.
especially the more you do of it. So you can think of it as a way of helping other people, or you can think of it as a way of helping yourself in kind of not a selfish way, as long
Mhm.
as that's not the energy you're holding about it.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
So these are very interesting things. And I think it's a good thought experiment to say, what if almost 8 billion people operated this way? It's interesting. And I don't want it to be like some kind of kumbaya, like, what if
Hey,
there were no wars? Which is like, yeah, it'd be great if there were no wars, except we kind of just seem to do it naturally since the
right.
beginning of time and up till right now. And yeah, that's terrible, but
You know what we could
it's
do,
kind of
Will?
where we're at. But
You know what we could do? We could just start our own cult, and
that's a great idea.
we'll
The
just get,
NFG cult. All
yeah, the
right.
NFG cult, and we'll get people to start thinking from the platinum rule way. Obviously, with us first, so all those that are interested in joining our cult, you should be from a platinum rule, should be thinking about us
Uh,
first.
that works because I like risky jokes and joking about cults. That's very risky.
Oh, is that a risky? Oh my God, I didn't even know. My risk
Well,
my
no,
risk my risk factor is especially with people
yeah,
that I
no,
know.
no. I just think it's funny because so many things that have outward facing and perceptions of them as good turn out to be really dark and really
Yeah,
culty on the back end. It's like so hard to tell, and you see it so much.
right.
If anyone has like, I forget what if it's on HBO or what it is, but kind of looking at the recent stuff that happened with that Nixium cult, that's really interesting to see.
No, I haven't seen that. I saw the last one
Um,
I saw was the Netflix show with the group from India that ended up in, Oregon, and they took over the
Oregon.
town.
Oh yeah, yeah. I haven't seen that
That
yet, but I
that
hear
one
that's really
that was
interesting.
pretty good. Yeah, very interesting. Even I would say after a couple of weeks at NLP Marin, kind of looking around going, what kind of cult is this? Everybody seems to be drinking the same Kool-Aid. So,
Well, I
but
think I
it's
don't want
it's
to butcher
it's
it,
a
but I think
positive.
the technical definition of cult is just like a group of people who see things similarly or like believe
Oh,
similar
makes
things.
sense.
It's something like that.
Right.
It
It's
has
kind
a,
of benign.
you know,
It's
cult. the word, yeah, the definition is benign from my
Right.
understanding, and the connotation is very dark usually,
It's
which is
culture.
fine.
That's funny. Google, I want a cult, and it automatically switched to culture. A system of
Uh,
religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object, a relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. Ooh. Now, this is the dictionary of coming from cult,
yeah.
and a misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. These are definitions from the Oxford language.
Okay. Well, I guess mine. I wonder where I got my definition from, but so
Yeah.
yeah, now it has a religious and nefarious connotation,
Yes.
technically.
A great devotion to a person or idea. The devotion must be great, though.
Yeah. Well, there
So
you go.
there you go. All right. So we did go dark. Good job. Good job.
Yeah. I mean, what are we gonna do? Talk about the human experience without, taking a surf through the darkness?
There you
That's
go.
not healthy. There are lots of cults out there that help you resist negative or painful emotions and experiences, but all they're doing is bringing you deeper, more out of rapport with yourself, because that's kind of not how we operate.
All right. I saw
But maybe
something that
that's a story for another day.
could be a story, although since you brought it up, I um you can't quote me on the exact, and I'm not sure if it was, but they were talking about one of those kind of a one of those religious groups where it's kind of that indoctrinization, is that part of why they want their people to go out and spread the word is so that they're actually rejected, so that when they come back, the group can go, see, the outside world's not safe. You belong here with
Ah,
us where it's safe. So
oh wow, I never
it's
thought of that. That's
yeah,
pretty genius
it's
in the
part of the
darkest kind of way.
psychology. Yeah, it's part of the
Mhm.
psychology is that you're creating this environment of safety, but safety's here with us within our group. So don't
Yeah,
go out. Don't
yeah,
go out.
totally. Well, that's I had never heard of that as being a tactic. That makes total
Yeah,
sense. But yeah, a
yeah.
big part of what cults do is create safety almost, but more like they create phobias of the outside world. This,
Mhm.
if you leave you'll get cancer, or your
Right,
family will die, or
right.
if you leave, other people are against you and us, and your family wants to sabotage you, and
Mhm.
whatever it is. So
Right, all that evil stuff.
it's the opposite of the platinum rule.
Yeah.
It's kind of like installing inst- installing the negative kind of guilt and all kinds of other horrible things.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So I think, as far as living your authentic life, I'd be curious for those watching and participating in today's podcast, what your thoughts are on the platinum rule and how can it help you, not only with yourself, but with friends, families, coworkers, and those type of things. Could be a fun little experiment to see how, if you use the platinum rule, what type of responses you may get from people as you incorporate that into your life.
What do you think the best way for them to do that would be, Ryan? I've been trying to noodle. I'm like, okay, now that I know what this is as of 30 minutes ago, how do we
Sure.
operationalize this for people?
I
Or
think the way
it's a
you,
magazine cover. It's like
it,
three to five steps to make this
yeah.
real in your life,
Well, I
you know?
think so. One is going to be having the awareness that people
Mm.
think differently, they see the world differently, they have different desires and intentions. And so if you can, one, recognize that that is true, two, identify something that is important to that other person. And that can be through asking questions and just having conversations or noticing that, you know, they always seem to wear red. And it's like, oh, I just, it seems like you wear a lot of red. What will having read do for you? I don't know. Um, but you can then learn something about them that maybe is a little bit deeper than just on the, what their sign is, what their birthday is, what's their favorite frappuccino or cappuccini from Starbucks. You learn something a little bit deeper and then you engage with them. Maybe you go and do a little research to learn more about whatever favorite cult they belong to, as an example, or whatever it is, but it's something in service of them at this point,
Yeah.
and then, share whatever that is. May it be a gift, as an example, for those of you that have read The 5 Love Languages. um, I think it was really designed for partners, people who are, you know, in a small space all the time, but if you hang out with friends on a regular basis, why not apply the 5 love languages, Okay, what is Sally's love language? If it's a gifting, what could I give Sally that just makes her feel good? If it's physical touch, maybe I give her a little bit more of an intense hug next time I see her and just go, "Oh my goodness, I really like these hugs," because
Mhm.
that's going to make her feel special. So I think
So it
those are the
sounds like
ways.
it's just really upping being your conscientiousness and your attentiveness and just your orientation to how other people operate and
Yeah.
what you notice about them.
Yeah, very much so. And then, at work, there's the story of the boss when the economy started falling apart. The boss goes, "Hey guys," he goes to the sales team. He goes, "Hey guys, Vegas is we're not going to be able to do the convention in Vegas. We just don't have the budget for it. We don't have the travel." But this is back in the days when businesses people actually used to fly places. Um,
Mm.
and he goes, we don't have the budget. We're not going to be able to do anything." And so this one guy goes, "Yeah, let's tell you what, I'll bet you I'm gonna get a trip to Vegas." So he goes up, understanding his boss's behavioral style. He goes up to the boss and he's like, "Hey boss, great speech. A lot of people are bummed, but I totally get it. There's no budget. We can't go. It's like, I think you made the right call. I don't think anybody should go, especially me. I mean, if I just went to Vegas, it'd be we'd be spending money and all those types of things." Well, the boss was a counter exemplar. So as soon as this guy
Yeah.
said, "You did a great job, nobody should go, especially me," because the boss counter exampled everything, he had to turn that negative response from the sales guy into a positive. So guess who ended up boss comes in and goes, "You know what? Been thinking about it. We should have some representation there. We're going to send Bob out to Vegas. So at least we have some representation." And so when you understand how people's psychology works, then you can use it to your advantage. Use it in a positive way, obviously, but you can use it in a way where, the boss didn't feel like he was being wrangled or beaten down. The guy didn't come in and go, "Boss, that's stupid. We're going to lose out on $5 million in sales. So and so contract's going to be there. If we don't meet them, we might lose out on this. We've got to have money somewhere." He didn't try and go through it from a logical, like, these are all the benefits for the company. He understood
Yeah.
how the boss worked. So he leverage that and got the results that he wanted, which is
Well,
kind
there
of
you
that
go.
that they talk about that and how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, so
Right.
that sounds kind of familiar. Yeah,
Yeah.
people who have no choice but to kind of polarize against whatever is said or stated, or people who have to find another different counterexample to facts or something
Right.
like that. I think these days some people are calling them contrarians, but there's all
Okay.
different ways of sorting it
Yeah.
out. That's really interesting.
Well, it's
So
and it's
yes, always wield your power for the light side,
there you
not the
go.
dark side, hopefully.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
understanding that this stuff's powerful and useful too, and has a utility other than your own positive, emotions and positive energy growth in the world.
Right.
It also can have practical steps for your career and your relationships as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And again,
Definitely.
it's like it's really interesting because I would say I'm not a like I don't some people love the act of gift giving, like they really
Hmm.
enjoy it, they think about it, they're oriented to it, they
Yep.
notice it about people. I'm not that way, like at all.
Right.
I'm just not just not who I am for whatever reason.
Hmm.
But I'm starting to get interested in it. It's not, I don't think
Mm.
it's who I'll ever naturally be, but I'm finding a lot of positive things inside of me, just starting back, all right, well, how do people give great gifts for,
Mm.
like business gifts or,
Right.
birthday presents, Christmas presents, whatever it is. And it's just kind of about thinking about what you know about people or what's going on in their lives or noticing things that they want. Or it's like,
Right.
um,
Kind of digging a little bit deeper, right? Get into the emotional aspect of what they enjoy. Because
yeah,
you could
well,
buy a
it's just bringing
gift.
a level of active conscientiousness
Right.
that you kind
Yeah.
of have to consciously get into as opposed to just going through your life thinking about other things. For me
Right.
at least, that's what I'm like, all right, just put some conscious attention on the question, what is this person like, what are they into, what do they care about, what's going on, are they about to have a baby, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I've found in me just the act of putting attention on those questions about
Hmm.
people who are important to me is like good for my psychology. Like the
Mm.
secondary payoffs of it are huge. And I
Right.
don't even know why fully. I just am noticing it. It's really interesting.
Kicks off the endorphins, doesn't it? Squirts
Yeah,
a little
it
happy
probably
juice in the
kicks off a
brain.
whole cocktail of good stuff, but it's just
Right.
interesting that functionally nothing's happening except our internal worlds, which I kind of regard as the size of a real world or a universe, but they're all
Mm.
inside of us and they're unique. A lot's happening in there.
Okay.
And then stuff happens in the real world down the road.
Right. Right. Well, I will say this, Will. Um, while I said that Lamborghini might be too much, coming from you, I'd be okay with it. I would accept it.
That's I was gonna go with Taco Bell gift card, but Lamborghini it is.
We'll just level up just a little bit, Taco Bell gift card, Lamborghini, just a
Yeah.
little bit of a level up.
It's a bit off track, but that's almost the most important and interesting part of all this for me is actually for this, if we do the thought experiment, okay, what if the entire world operated this way? The other side of that, the people have to be willing to choose the feeling of guilt that would come with receiving good
Mm,
positive
hmm.
things from good positive people in their lives, not manipulators or
Right.
people with ulterior motives or whatever it is, but like, good, clean, positive relating. um like I said, you should accept that Lamborghini from me, but you're gonna
Right.
have to consciously be like, oh, this feels a little weird, or usually we don't say I feel guilty, but some people
Right.
do, but
Right.
usually it's just like I feel bad.
Hmm.
When it's guilt,
Right.
consciously taking that as part of the experience and not letting and letting it discreate and kind of run its course is important, or else
Right.
you'll never enjoy that car, and I
Yep.
want you to enjoy it.
I will fully enjoy it.
uh,
I appreciate your kindness. I appreciate your kindness, Will.
mhm.
And I'll make sure I reciprocate in some way. Although it's interesting, and then I think we got to end this at some point. Um, Japanese culture, I don't know it very well, but they are all about reciprocating gifts. So when you give a gift, it's kind of expected that you return. And I don't know like time frames or those types of things, but you don't you can't give this gift. You have to give this gift, which means when
Mhm.
you reciprocate, you can't give here, you got to give here. It's like at what point
Yeah,
does it stop that you're like, oh,
yeah.
it's like so
And I think that
interesting.
the
It's a great
Bear
way to keep
Hellinger
the
model I
economy
was talking
going.
about earlier is that without the obligation, I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
It's just more like it's self-perpetuating instead of externally obligated to do
Right.
something.
Yeah.
But that still sounds positive too, to a certain degree. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. As
there,
long as you can
people
afford
aren't
it.
engaging in a more positive way with each other.
All right.
But that's the thing. We have to be able to receive good things and receive care from people.
Yeah.
We have, it's not always, sometimes our world's full of great things, and emotionally or belief level wise or identity level wise, and probably unconsciously, we actually can't handle the good emotions or sustain them that come with receiving good experiences or good gifts
Right.
from people in our lives, or good relationships that are healthy for us. So the other end of the coin is really important on this.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, stick with what you can control, which is how can you implement the platinum rule in your life, and
Right.
then how can you implement receiving the platinum rule from others inside of you.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you got to have both those things for it to work.
All right. The give and the take.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be able to take to be healthy in this world. I don't think
Yes.
that gets said enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be a future show right there.
I think so.
There you go. There you go. Maybe not next week,
How
but
did,
down the road for sure.
yeah. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
But
Well,
yeah,
hopefully next week
I
we'll
think people will be able to kind of get this operationalized for themselves from what was said here.
mhm.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Speaking of next week, we won't be live. It will be a pre-recorded show because I will not be available, unfortunately. I'm doing a little traveling, which I'm excited about, but we will be doing a pre-recorded show. We're going to have a guest on, which we're excited about because it's the first time having a guest on.
My
So
first guest.
yeah,
Oh my
that'll be fun. I'm
goodness.
looking forward to
We're
it.
going to be talking. We're going to be talking a bit about the internal and external world of our fashion and how we express ourselves with an expert. It's going to be cool.
With an expert, a fashion expert.
Yeah.
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 Perfect.
To be specific.
All
So
righty.
stay tuned.
Stay
All right.
tuned.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right. Thank you very much. Until next week, hope you all have a great time. Take care.